Good.
Alright guys, so I'm going to talk about leadership today. What's the first thing that comes in your mind when I say leadership?
A smart person.
A smart person, that's good.
Someone that knows what they're doing.
Someone that knows what they're doing. That is great. You guys are talking about IQ. But there's another aspect of leadership that we often ignore, which is emotional intelligence. And that's what I'm going to talk about. You may not be able to gain IQ. You're born with it. You know how smart you are. You can look what you're doing. You can present that you know what you're doing if you have the technical information. But there's another something very important, which is emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? It's the way we interact with people. It's the way we see people. It's the way we see ourselves. Okay? And all that comes together, and we talk about, and the first thing that we talk about is knowing yourself, and that's self-awareness. Now, I have put up a picture, and it has a cat looking in the mirror and seeing himself as a lion, and what matters most is how you see yourself. It's pretty good. But here's a fatal flaw in it. What matters the most is how you see yourself. That's not always the case. You have to see how people see you. Okay? We often are too much into, okay, we got whatever we could. You know, we have a nice house, we have a nice car. But we may have overlooked the fact that how people see us. That's another very important aspect. How we see ourselves, it's important, but how we are perceived by others, it's even more important, okay? If you know yourself, if you know what you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, okay? You're in a good shape. You can use your strengths to overcome anything that comes in your way, knowing your weaknesses, and you can overcome your weaknesses by using your strengths. You want to move to another slide? All right, I'm going to talk about a leader. When I came to Kroger, I always hated retail industry. So when I joined Kroger as a manager, I was very scared, okay? And the first leader I saw and I met was, and I wouldn't use his name, I would use his initials, TA. The first thing I noticed about the guy, he was very honest. He was very direct about how he felt. He would tell you on your face what he didn't like about you, what he did like about you, and he knew what he wanted, okay? He believed in every single employee he had, and he knew what they were capable of achieving, okay? He would never put you in a place where he knew you're gonna fail, okay? And I have one of my employees right here, and he has witnessed that manager, and the whole store worked together. We are one of the best stores in the division, which has 220 stores. We were one of the well-managed, everything worked fine, we didn't have any issues. And that's because of him. He had his flaws, but he knew his strength. He knew himself. He knew what he was capable of doing, and he did what he wanted other people to do. He had a vision, and he made you see his vision. And that's one of the qualities of the leader. They want you to see what they see. And once they accomplish that, they don't work as hard. You work for them, okay? And no matter what the situation was, his reactions were always similar. He knew what he wanted. Employees knew how he was gonna react. If you had a problem, here's one of his code. Don't give me problems, give me solutions. He wanted you to think, how are you going to solve that problem? He may have a solution, he may not have a solution. He wouldn't give it to you. He would want you to find a solution so you grow. Okay? That was one of his abilities. Anytime there was a crisis, he was calm, no matter what. If the store was burning down, and you go and you tell, hey, store's burning down. You'll be like, okay, what can we do to fix it? Let's fix the problem. Okay? If you want to keep going. And one of his code that I remember, do or don't do. There's no crime. You either do it or you don't do it. You don't say, I'm gonna try. Okay? Now, that leads us to self-management. Now, what is self-management? It's about, you know yourself, but how do you control yourself? How do you manage your emotion? How do you manage yourself? Okay, now I put up a picture, pretty disturbing. And believe me, I was disturbed for 10 seconds. Just because you can, that doesn't mean you should. If you know your situation, if you know that you have a problem on your hand, you can either freak everyone out and you tell them that we have a crisis and let's all get frustrated about it, or you control yourself and you make sure your people know that we will fix this. And that's self-management, how you control yourself. Now, with Terry, he always took his time to understand the situation. He never rushed to a conclusion. He never told you that, okay, we have a problem. And he always was very calm, confined in his approach of how the problem was and how we were gonna fix it. He was patient with everyone, no matter what. And if he had to say something, he would rather, if he had to tell you something, he would rather say it in private, rather than making it a whole scene about it. And that's one of his quote was, "Are you part of the solution?" That means he wanted you to think about the problem. Now, what is social awareness? It's about knowing others, about people, caring about people around you. That's one of the most important things. You know yourself, you know how to manage your emotions, but how do you know other people? How would they react with everything you ever say? Okay, how would they, because words are not everything. When you say something, not everyone would understand what you're saying, but they would see your reaction, they would see your face. If you're freaking out, they're gonna freak out. And that's how you know you're not a good leader. Now, he knew my leader, TA, he knew what everyone was capable of doing. He was always firm about what he wanted you to do, but he was firm in a way that you wouldn't get offended. He knew what he wanted you to do, and he would freak you out, and he would make sure you get there where he wanted you to get there. And one of his quotes was, "So you want to be the first loser?" Every time I say, "Sir, I can't do it," he would say, "Are you going to be the first loser?" Now, relationship, every single thing managed together. The relationship is the single most important thing, how you manage your relations among people. How do you react with people? How do you interact with people? How do you take their problems and make your own and try to solve it, so when you're not in a place, they work on their own, okay? You cannot be there all the time. And that's what the most important thing is, knowing how you can make people work when you're not there. And that's one of the things that TA did. He was most understood. He was very dry when he responded to situation, when he interacted with people. And at times, employees thought that TA was, very distant and never really understood what their problem was or what they were trying to say. But he did, but his way. And as long as when you got to know him, you would understand what he was trying to say and where he was going. And I think that was one of the places where he could have worked, where building relationship and making sure everything was going smooth. And one of his quotes is this a long story? I'm already bored. And he used to say that all the time to me, because I would give him all the information. So he wanted you to be very to the point, understand what the problem is, and solve it. That was the whole thing. And that's, I believe, he was one of the best leaders I've ever had, where, I see myself with him, except being more understanding of relationship management. And that concludes our meeting today. I appreciate you all.